What if the Yellowstone volcano erupted tomorrow? This is a big question. It sounds very scary. Many people worry about this. They see scary pictures online, they read scary stories, but fear is not helpful. Knowledge is helpful. Let us look at the real facts. Let us understand what could happen. We can be calm, we can be smart. This essay will explain what a Yellowstone eruption would mean. It is important to learn, it is important to be prepared, but it is also important not to be afraid. Let us begin with what we know. Yellowstone is a famous national park. It is in the United States. The park is very beautiful. It has tall trees, wide rivers. It is home to bears, wolves, and bison. But under the ground, there is something else. There is a giant pool of hot melted rock. This is called magma. Because of this hot rock, Yellowstone has geysers and hot springs. Old Faithful is a famous geyser there. It shoots hot water high into the air. These hot features are clues. They tell us about the heat deep below the surface of the earth. This pool of hot rock makes Yellowstone a special kind of volcano. It is called a supervolcano. A supervolcano is not a tall, pointy mountain like you see in pictures. It is a huge area under the ground that can have a very big eruption. These big eruptions are very, very rare. They do not happen often. The last giant eruption at Yellowstone was more than 600,000 years ago. That is a very long time. It was long before there were any people like us. Scientists who study the volcano say a big eruption is not likely to happen soon. So, why do we talk about it? We talk about it because it is good to understand our world. We also talk about it to be ready. Knowing what could happen helps us make good plans. A big eruption is a very low-risk event, but it has very big consequences. That means it probably will not happen, but if it did, it would be a very big deal. Thinking about it helps us prepare not just for a volcano, but for other emergencies too. Let us imagine the worst-case scenario. Let us say a super eruption starts tomorrow. What would happen in the first hour? The ground would shake violently. A giant crack many miles long would rip open the earth. From this crack, a huge cloud of ash, rock, and gas would blast into the sky. This cloud is called an eruption column. It would rise very fast and very high. It could reach more than 25 miles up into the atmosphere. That is much higher than airplanes fly. The sound would be incredibly loud, a deafening roar heard for hundreds of miles. For anyone inside the park or in the towns nearby, the danger would be immediate. The most deadly thing would be the pyroclastic flows. These are super hot clouds of ash gas rock that move very fast. They can travel over 100 miles per hour. They are hotter than an oven. They would rush out from the eruption, destroying everything in their path. This is the kill zone. The area around the eruption for maybe 50 to 60 miles would be completely destroyed by these flows. This is why an evacuation would be so important if there were warning signs. The sky would turn black as the giant ash cloud spreads out. It would block the sun completely. It would feel like the middle of the night, even if it was noon. Lightning would flash inside the ash cloud. This is called a volcanic thunderstorm. Ash and pieces of rock called pumice would start to fall from the sky. At first, it would be like a heavy rain of rocks. These falling rocks could be as small as sand, or as big as cars close to the vent. It would be very dangerous to be outside. The power of the explosion would be immense. It would be like thousands of atomic bombs going off at once. The blast would send shock waves through the air and the ground. The land around the eruption site would collapse. This would make the caldera even deeper. The first hour would be a time of extreme and violent change right at the center of the eruption. For the rest of the world, the first sign would be on the news. The first effect would be the giant ash cloud starting its journey across the sky. In the first day, the biggest problem would be the ash cloud. The wind would carry it across the country. In North America, the winds usually blow from west to east, so the ash would travel east from Yellowstone. Wyoming would be the first to get heavy ash. Montana would be the first to get heavy ash. Colorado would be the first to get heavy ash. Within 24 hours, the cloud would cover a huge part of the United States. It would look like a giant, dark storm cloud that never ends. Under this cloud, day would turn into a dim, gray twilight. The ash that falls is not soft like the ash from a fireplace. Volcanic ash is made of tiny, sharp pieces of rock and glass. It is heavy and abrasive. Breathing it in is very bad for your lungs. It can feel like breathing in fine sand. People in the ashfall zones would need to stay inside. They would need to seal their doors and windows, use tape and plastic to seal up openings. If they had to go outside, they would need special masks, called N95 respirators, to protect their lungs. They would also need goggles to protect their eyes. Near Yellowstone, the ash could be several feet deep. It would be like a very heavy gray snowstorm. The weight of the ash could cause roofs to collapse, especially if it gets wet from rain. Farther away, the ash layer would be thinner. In Denver, it might be several inches deep. In Salt Lake City, it might be several inches deep. In the Midwest, like in Chicago, it might be a thin dusting like flour on a table, but even a thin layer of ash can cause big problems. It is slippery on roads, making driving very dangerous. All air travel would stop in the areas with ash. A plane cannot fly through a volcanic ash cloud. The sharp particles can melt inside the hot jet engines and cause them to fail. So, thousands of flights would be canceled. Airports across the country would close. This would leave many people stranded far from home. Trains and cars would also have trouble. The ash clogs up engines and air filters. The country's transportation system would quickly grind to a halt in a large part of the nation. Well, in the first week, life would change for millions of people. The main job would be to, survive the ash. Where the ash is thick, people would be trapped in their homes. Power could go out. The heavy ash can break power lines and cause electrical equipment to fail. A Yellowstone super eruption would not just affect the United States, it would affect the whole world. The eruption would shoot huge amounts of gas, especially sulfur dioxide, high into the stratosphere. The stratosphere is a layer of the atmosphere far above the clouds and weather. Up there, the gas would mix with water to form tiny droplets called aerosols. These aerosols would spread around the entire planet like a thin veil. They would stay up there for several years. This veil of aerosols would act like a giant sunshade. It would reflect some of the sun's light and heat back into space. This would cause the Earth's average temperature to drop. This is called a volcanic winter. It would not be a true ice age, but it would be a noticeable cooling. Global temperatures could drop by a few degrees for several years. Summers would be cooler and wetter in some places. Winters could be colder. The sky might look hazy or have a different color during sunrise and sunset. This global cooling would have a big impact on farming all over the world. If an eruption happens, the most important thing is to stay calm and listen to the authorities. They will provide the best information on what to do. If you live in a danger zone and are told to evacuate, you must leave. Do not wait, but for most people, the main danger will be falling ash. The best thing to do is to shelter in place. Stay inside your home. Turn your home into a safe space. Keep the ash out. Close and lock all windows. Close and lock all doors. Use duct tape. Use plastic sheets. Seal gaps around doors. Seal gaps around windows. Seal gaps around vents. Turn off air conditioning that brings in outside air. Turn off heating systems that bring in outside air. You do not want to pull the ash into your house. Place wet towels at the bottom of doors to help block fine dust. Make your home as airtight as possible. Keep pets inside. You will need an emergency kit. Everyone should have one. Kit. At least a week of supplies. Water. 1 gallon per person per day. And let us enjoy the beauty and wonder of our world today, knowing that we are ready for what tomorrow may bring.